Hi everybody, it's Sarah from Sarah Loves to Sew, and this month we're going to be making this beautiful Christmas gift sack. So it's a fully lined sack with the drawstring and you've got the frill at the top. So let's get started. Hi, so here we are. We're going to make the Christmas sack. So what we're going to do first of all is basically to cut the pieces in half. So you'll have two of every one. So you have two linings, the green, two of the main fabric and two of the top frill. So you want to just make them even and cut this in half along here so that we have 13 centimetres by 50 for both of these, and then we've got the two pieces, and then you also need to do the same with the lining, which I've done here, so you end up with two pieces and two pieces of the main as well. So once you've cut those, we can start assembling it. So the main fabric will be 68 centimetres by 50 each, and the lining will be 78 by 50, and this will be 13 by 50. So you should have two pieces of each. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to sew the top frill onto the main fabric. So to do this, you put right sides together and you're going to pin them and then sew along the edge with a 1.5 centimetre seam allowance, and then you'll do the same on the other one. So you just get the main fabric, right sides together, and pin that along there, and then we're going to sew along that line. Once you've sewn the red trim onto the main, you then want to open up and just press this seam open. So just give it a little press with the iron, or what I do is I've got this little roller that's quite useful as well if you don't want to use the iron, or you can finger press it. So we will then have that piece looking like that. If it overhangs slightly, just trim it down, and then likewise same one with this one. You just open it up and there we go. Give it a little bit of a press or a roll, and then we've got those two bits together. So now you're going to put the right sides facing up for the next step. So place one down and put the other one with the right sides together on top, lining up the edges along the red there. So mine's slightly overlap down here, but I'm just going to follow the seam all the way down. So now we're going to sew these two pieces together. This will be the outside bag. So we're just going to pin down the sides. Actually, if you pin it that way, then it doesn't matter which way you take it to the machine. The pins will be easy to remove. Okay, so you just carry on pinning down both sides and along the bottom, and then you're going to stitch those together. So once you've sewn all the way around down the sides, along the bottom and up to the other side, you can, if you've got a pair of pinking shears, just trim that seam, and then we're going to start doing the lining. So now we're going to do the same with the lining. So you put them two pieces. There isn't really a sort of right side much difference for this poplin, but put them together, and then we are going to pin and sew down both sides and along the bottom, as we just have done on the main fabric. However, this time we're going to leave about a 4-6 inch gap at the bottom here, and that's where we're going to turn the sack through. So if you just mark a couple of spots at those points, just so that you remember not to sew that. Okay, so pin that and take it to the machine. So you've sewn the two pieces of lining together. Again, just trim the seams, pinking shears if you've got them, and this will just help the fabric lie flatter and stop it fraying so much. And then we will start to put the sack together. So once you've trimmed the seam edges, you now need to place the main bag inside the lining so that the right sides are touching. So if you turn this the right way round and then just place inside, so the right side of this will be touching the right side of the bag, and just line up the seams like so, and then pin that in place, and you're going to work your way around and do the same on the other side. And then we're going to, mine isn't quite straight here, so I'm just going to tidy off that seam a little bit, just so that it's nice and flat at the seam. And then you want to pin the seams together so it's the tidy bits, the right sides together, and then just pin that one there as well. And then we're going to sew the lining and the outer bags together, so just keep going round, pinning it in place, and then stitch in place. So I'm just pinning this all the way around. If you find that you've got too much of one of the fabrics, just try and hide it in the seam. So I'll show you what I mean. So this, they've got more green than red, so I'm just going to put in a neat little sort of pleat here at the seam. So gather it up, and then just going to do that like so. Okay, and then you can sew all the way around. Once you've sewn along the edge there, I've just trimmed it with some pinking shears, and now you need to pull the bag through the gap that we left at the bottom of the casing. So just put your hand in there and pull the main bag through, and then all the way through the gap, so you have the main bag and the lining like so. And then we're just going to sew this seam at the bottom closed. So before you sew it closed, just get your hands into all the corners and make sure that they're all pushed out, and you can get your hand all the way in to these corners as well and push those out like so. Okay, and then you can just sew this little gap closed. So just pin it and then sew along there. If you want to be really neat, you can do it by hand. Just do little invisible stitches, a little ladder stitch or something, or if you want to do it quickly, you can just do it on the machine, because this will be inside the bag at the very bottom, so it's not going to be on show. So just stitch that up. So once you've slip stitched the gap closed, you then push the lining into the bag. And then find the top of the bag there. So the next thing to do is to create the channel for the drawstring. So you need to sew. So basically make sure that it's all lined up nicely at the top. And if you want, you can do a little finger press and then just get it nice and flat. And you're going to work a line of stitching through the lining and along that line. So you're going to sew all the way along that line all the way around. So I've worked one line of stitching along that seam, and now we're going to do another line just wide enough so that we can get a drawstring in. So if you do about 3 centimeters below that line, we're going to do another complete circle of stitching. So what we're going to do now, we've done the 2 lines of stitches for the casing, is we're just going to snip the top fabric only to thread the drawstring through. So don't go all the way through to the lining, just going to pull it up, pinch it, and then snip a little hole in there, and that's where we can put our drawstring. But I'm just going to secure that with some stitches at the top and bottom, just hands over sew a couple of stitches, stop that breaking. So once you've cut the casing, just do a few secure sort of hand stitches at top and bottom, just so that doesn't rip when you're pulling it through, and then tie a knot at one end of your drawstring and put your safety pin on it, and then use that to thread it all the way around until it comes back round. And then you can tie another knot at the other end, and then that should stop them fraying. And then finally you tie them both together in a knot, and there we have it, one lovely Christmas sack all ready for Christmas Eve.